I was holding his hand, and he was long gone, lost, and all that, and it was a neat memory for me to have.
Country legends Vince Gill and Kris Kristofferson, one with an angelic voice, the other with poetic grit, have long been admired by fans who thought they knew their story. But at 67, Gill has finally opened up about his deep artistic connection with Kristofferson. He's now sharing insights that show a different side of both men. "I've wanted to talk about this for years," Gill shared in a recent interview. "There's a side to Kris that the public rarely saw, a side that truly shaped country music." What did Vince learn from his years knowing Kristofferson? Was it his quiet generosity towards struggling musicians? His stand against controlling executives? Or the personal challenges he faced while writing some of country's most honest songs? These reflections reveal not just Kristofferson's true character. They also show how both men chose artistic truth over commercial success. Why is Gill speaking now, after years of keeping their friendship private? His answer shows the deep respect these two artists have for each other, and highlights the real meaning of legacy in country music. The man behind the music. Beneath Vince's smooth vocals lay a man battling hidden storms. In 1993, his half-brother Bob died in a car crash. This tragedy inspired his most personal song, "Go Rest High on That Mountain," a tearful goodbye disguised as a country ballad. As his career reached its peak, his marriage to Janice Oliver fell apart in 1997. This pushed his private pain into tabloid headlines. Critics attacked when he tried new musical directions, calling him a sellout during his emotional lowest point. Sources reveal he almost gave up music completely, wondering if fame was worth the sacrifice. These painful experiences taught Vince something crucial. Real artistry comes from honest emotion, not perfect performances. This understanding drew him to Kristofferson's work years before they met. "When I heard Kris sing about pain, I knew he'd lived it," Gill once said. "We both learned that putting truth in your music matters more than making it pretty." This shared belief in musical honesty became the foundation of their lasting respect for each other. The unseen rebel of country. Kris Kristofferson's rise to country stardom came at a devastating personal cost. Born to a strict military family, he shattered expectations when he rejected a prestigious West Point teaching position after graduating from Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. This wasn't just a career choice. It was outright rebellion against his family's values. His military father's response was brutal, complete disownment. He declared Kris dead to him for choosing music over military service. Family photos were altered to erase his existence. His name became forbidden at gatherings as relatives took sides in the bitter feud. Abandoned and alone, Kris arrived in Nashville with nothing. The Oxford graduate became a janitor at Columbia Records, scrubbing toilets for the stars he dreamed of joining. By night, he slept in a heatless apartment. He wrote songs on paper bags when notebooks were too expensive. Studio executives literally stepped over him while he mopped, oblivious that the man cleaning their mess had masterpieces in his head. He faced humiliating rejection. One producer even trashed his demo tape right in front of him. Nashville's establishment viewed him as dangerous, too raw and willing to tackle taboo subjects like addiction and spiritual questioning. Even after Johnny Cash recorded his work, industry insiders spread rumors about him. They couldn't comprehend why anyone would abandon military prestige for music's uncertain path. What these executives never anticipated was how Kris's outsider status would connect with audiences tired of sanitized country music. His defiant stand against an entire industry was about to change everything. Scandals and shadows. Behind Kris Kristofferson's rugged charm were real struggles that tested his commitment to his art. His battles with alcohol weren't just personal problems, they threatened his entire career. In the 70s, he sometimes arrived at recording sessions unsteady, eyes unfocused. Studio executives questioned his reliability, while friends worried about his health. His marriage to Rita Coolidge suffered under the weight of his drinking and touring schedule. "He chose the bottle over me," Rita reportedly told a friend, a comment that quickly spread through Nashville. Hollywood brought its own challenges. On A Star is Born, Kris had creative differences with Barbra Streisand. Crew members often shared stories about their disagreements. One director called him unmanageable after he refused to follow script directions, but his political outspokenness truly tested his career. When he criticized American military actions, country stations pulled his music. Fans burned records in parking lots. "They tried to silence me," Kris told a reporter in 1982. "But I didn't write songs to make friends with people who start wars." Meanwhile, Vince Gill faced similar pressures in different ways. When he added pop elements to his traditional sound in the mid-90s, purists labelled him a sellout. One reviewer harshly called him the man who traded his cowboy hat for a cash register. Radio pushed Vince towards safer material, nearly breaking his creative spirit. "There were nights I wondered if I should just give them what they wanted instead of what felt right," he later admitted. Both men chose artistic truth over commercial success, a choice that cost them in the short term but earned them lasting respect. This shared commitment to musical honesty created an instant connection when they finally met backstage at the 1985 CMA Awards. Kristofferson immediately recognized a kindred spirit in the younger artist. What really happened when Vince met Kris? Few fans know about Vince Gill and Kris Kristofferson's first backstage meeting at the 1985 CMA Awards. Kris approached the nervous newcomer with unexpected warmth, telling him, "You've got something special, kid," a moment Vince kept private for decades. This brief encounter sparked what insiders call country music's most guarded friendship. Throughout the late 80s and 90s, crew members spotted them in deep conversation at events. They shared whiskey and stories away from prying ears. One sound engineer overheard Kris sharing struggles no journalist had documented. During a 1992 tribute concert, cameras caught Kris gripping Vince's shoulder. He whispered something that visibly moved the younger artist. When questioned later, Vince simply stated, "Some things stay between friends." Bandmates revealed Vince studied a worn copy of Kristofferson's lyrics on his tour bus. Meanwhile, Kris attended Vince's smaller gigs anonymously. A Nashville bartender once heard Kris defend Vince to critics. "That man understands what this music is really about, and most of you don't." At the 1999 Grammys, Kris slipped Vince a handwritten note he refused to share with anyone. Sources suggest they secretly supported each other through personal crises, Vince's divorce and Kris's health battles. At the 2005 Songwriters Hall of Fame ceremony, Kris told executives, "If you're looking for the future of honest songwriting, it's sitting right there." He pointed to Vince, who was later moved to tears. Why keep such a meaningful connection private? Insiders believe both shared a deep distrust of the music business that had hurt authentic artists before them. Their friendship was a sanctuary from commercial pressures. And what happened next would reveal just how deep that bond truly went. Hidden kindness. Behind Kris Kristofferson's rugged exterior lies a heart of gold few have glimpsed, until now. For decades, he's secretly changed lives across Nashville as a guardian angel while fiercely guarding his privacy. Vince Gill revealed Kris personally funded medical treatments for struggling session musicians who couldn't afford healthcare. When songwriter Jamie Collins faced eviction after illness, Kris anonymously covered 6 months of rent. He'd write checks with no name attached, a studio insider told Vince. He'd just say, "Make sure this gets to them and don't tell them where it came from." Even more surprising was how Kristofferson stood up to record executives exploiting young artists. In 1985, he threatened to pull his catalogue unless they rewrote predatory contracts for 2 female artists. The label gave in, but everyone agreed to keep quiet. Kris hated when charity became publicity. "Good deeds aren't merchandise," he once told Vince backstage. The minute you brag about helping someone, you've turned their pain into your promotion. Vince learned about these acts through whispers at industry events and from grateful recipients who eventually discovered their benefactor's identity. I promised him I wouldn't talk, Vince admitted recently. But seeing how people think they know him by his rough exterior, the real Kris is getting lost. How did media miss this completely? While tabloids chased drinking stories and political statements, they missed the lives he quietly changed, because generosity doesn't sell magazines. One moving story involves a Columbia Records janitor with songwriting dreams. When the man's daughter needed emergency surgery, Kris paid the bill and arranged for a publisher to hear his songs. That janitor later wrote 3 top 10 hits, never publicly thanking Kristofferson, honouring his promise. But the truth couldn't stay buried forever. And what Vince reveals next about their personal relationship will make you question everything you thought you knew about both men. Vince Gill on Kristofferson's musical legacy. What Vince Gill shared about Kris Kristofferson challenges Nashville's biggest myth. In a heartfelt interview, Gill highlighted what truly matters in country music. A beautiful voice means nothing without something real to say, Gill explained. Kris taught us that authenticity trumps technical perfection. This statement matters in an industry now focused on auto-tune and vocal perfection. While executives chase flawless performers, Gill pointed to Kristofferson's imperfect delivery as the gold standard. His voice cracks and strains in songs like Sunday Morning Coming Down, Gill explained. But you believe every word because he's not performing, he's confessing. Critics often dismissed Kristofferson's vocals as limited. One wrote he sings like a man who's been awake for 3 days straight. But Gill sees these rough edges as what makes the music unforgettable. The Nashville machine wanted pretty singers, Gill revealed. Kris gave them truth instead. And that scared them because truth has rough edges. Gill applied this lesson in his 1995 album High Lonesome Sound. He chose emotional honesty over technical perfection. I stopped trying to make every note perfect and started making sure every note was real, Gill explained. That's what I learned from listening to Kris. Producers pushed Kristofferson to let better voices record his songs. He refused, creating work that changed country music forever. It wasn't how he sang, it was what he sang, Gill said, emotion cracking his voice. He put his soul on tape, something no vocal coach can teach. This deeply matters for today's artists, trapped in endless vocal training. While chasing perfection, they miss what actually connects with audiences, vulnerability and honesty. Kris opened a vein and bled all over the microphone, Gill said. Decades later, those songs still hit harder than anything today. As health issues affect Kristofferson's memory, Gill feels an urgent need to honour this legacy. Those raw, honest creations may soon be all that remains of a man who valued truth over technique. And Gill wants to make sure that lesson isn't forgotten. Why break silence now? Why is Vince Gill suddenly speaking about Kris Kristofferson after all these years? The answer is heartbreakingly simple. Time is running out. As Kris battles worsening memory loss, Vince faces a now or never moment that's deeply personal. I've watched too many legends fade away without hearing how much they mattered, Vince reportedly told a friend backstage. I won't let that happen with Kris. This urgency comes from genuine fear. Vince has seen musical giants vanish from public memory, their impact forgotten. For someone who cherishes musical heritage like Vince, the thought of Kristofferson's legacy fading became unbearable. But deeper currents are at work. Insiders reveal Vince carries years of regret, moments when he could have championed Kris's genius but stayed quiet. Did industry politics silence him? Was there unspoken competition between these two country eras? Some question whether guilt drives Vince's sudden openness. Did he once dismiss Kristofferson's rough style, only to later recognize its authenticity? Or does he fear his own legacy will be judged by how he treated his predecessors? The most compelling theory is far more poignant. Watching Kris's health decline triggered a reckoning about mortality and musical brotherhood. As one Nashville veteran put it, "When you see a giant start to fall, you realize how fragile all this fame really is." What makes this confession striking is its timing. It comes alongside rumours of Kris's increasingly rare public appearances. Sources whisper that Vince received word Kris's condition had significantly worsened, creating the ultimate deadline. Vince isn't just paying tribute, revealed a Nashville insider. He's fighting to make sure Kris knows his impact while he can still hear it. The question remains, what else hasn't Vince shared? What private conversations sparked this public declaration? And what other secrets about country music's golden era might Vince expose before it's too late? The untold legacy of two country outlaws. Gill's reflections about Kristofferson reveal the real men behind the music. These aren't polished stars, but battle-scarred survivors who chose authenticity over safety. The facade has cracked, showing two artists whose strength came from bleeding openly through their music. Behind the glamour lies the real story. Kris scrubbing Nashville floors after abandoning military prestige. He battled addiction while writing soul-cutting lyrics. Vince smiled through grief, recognizing genius in a voice others dismissed as too rough. Not competitors, kindred spirits understanding that real art demands real pain. Their struggles, challenges, and quiet acts of kindness formed the foundation of music that mattered. Kris's generosity and Vince's tribute reveal country music's soul was never about perfection, just truth. Listen to Kristofferson's Sunday Morning Coming Down, or Gill's Go Rest High on That Mountain. You'll hear what both men understood, that a voice cracking with emotion speaks louder than perfect pitch ever could. This makes us question everything about our musical heroes. How many legends have we misunderstood? What stories remain buried beneath managed images? The real legacy of these two artists isn't just their hit songs, it's their unwavering commitment to honesty in an industry that often values image over substance. As Gill said in his tribute, Kris taught us all that being real matters more than being perfect. It's a lesson that changed country music forever, and one that deserves to be remembered.